Hey guys, tonight we step into the cramped, crumbling back alleys of 18th century Paris, specifically the slums. Forget everything you think you know about croissants and berets. This is not the postcard version of the City of Light. This is the city's shadow, where rats are roommates and bathing is just a rumor. You're about to spend a day here, and spoiler alert, you probably won't survive it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from your bed, tell me where you are and what time it is right now. I love seeing who's drifting off to sleep from where in the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up to the sound of dripping water and someone snoring 2 inches from your face. You're not sure if it's a person or a pig. It could honestly be either. Your mattress is straw, your pillow is more straw, and your blanket is a burlap sack that smells like a wet sheep auditioned for cheese duty and failed. Congratulations! You've made it through the night in an 18th century Parisian tenement. Your first thought isn't "where am I?" It's "what died in my mouth?" Your tongue is dry, your lips are sticky, and your breath could peel paint. But none of that matters right now because something is dripping on your forehead. It's rain, or sewage, depending on the angle. You try to sit up, but there's a knee in your back and a foot dangerously close to your cheek. You wriggle free like a half-cooked noodle, managing not to step on the baby someone left wrapped in rags beside the door. The baby gives you a look like you think you got it bad. There's no light bulb to flip, no curtains to draw. The only window is a fist-sized hole in the wall, and it's mostly covered with a shirt that no longer qualifies as clothing. Through the tiny gap, you can just barely see the sky, grey, heavy, and close, like the day can't be bothered to get going either. The tenement creaks, you creak. Your joints protest as you shuffle to the door, which isn't so much a door as a wooden plank propped against the frame. You remove it, step outside, and immediately regret every decision that led to this moment. The hallway, or is it a hallway, is damp, always damp. You don't remember the last time this place was dry. There's mold on the walls, a faint buzz of flies, and someone yelling in the distance, "Who took my last onion?" It's 6 a.m. and the drama is already simmering. You carefully tiptoe down the stairs, which are more suggestion than structure. One is missing, another is broken in half but taped together with string. You clutch the railing, which wiggles under your hand like a polite snake. At the bottom, the door to the outside world is wide open. Technically, there's no door anymore, just a frame where a door used to exist, back when this building had dreams. You step out, and instantly your shoes, which are barely shoes, soak through. You are ankle-deep in the Parisian slum experience, cold, mud, and something suspiciously warm floating by. The street is barely a street, it's a trench. There's sewage bubbling up from the gutters, garbage heaped against the walls, and chickens strutting around like they pay rent. People are already moving, children darting between legs, women balancing water jugs on their heads, men dragging carts full of what might be bread or might be very committed rats. You get a full view of the neighborhood now, brick buildings leaning like gossiping old ladies, laundry lines crossing the street like jungle vines, and smoke curling up from every cracked chimney. Someone throws a bucket of something from a second-story window and you flinch just in time. It hits the cobblestone with a wet slap. You don't ask what it was. A cart rattles by, its wheels screaming in protest. The man pulling it is barefoot, wearing what used to be pants, and is now an argument. "Out of the way!" he shouts, and you shuffle aside, slipping a little, grabbing onto a lantern post that tilts under your weight like it's just as tired of all this as you are. You pass a woman scrubbing clothes in a puddle. She hums a tune, off-key, but sweet. Next to her is a toddler eating something off the ground with genuine delight. No one stops him. Maybe it's considered protein. A group of teenagers crouch in an alley, whispering over something shiny. Might be a coin or a tooth. You don't make eye contact. You feel eyes on you. Not friendly ones. A boy with the expression of someone who has already stolen your socks walks by and bumps into you hard. Your hand darts to your pocket, empty. Joke's on him, you had nothing to steal. Around the corner, an elderly man mutters to himself about the cheese tax and the Queen's shadow being hollow. You smile politely and edge away. Historians still argue whether the urban poor of Paris were more prone to conspiracy theories due to lack of education or simply because life in the slums was so bleak. Believing in magical cheese taxes seemed reasonable. Still, you're struck by how alive it all is, loud, messy, desperate, but undeniably alive. A young girl offers you a crust of bread, stale, hard, but offered with a smile that's almost defiant. You take it and nod. She skips away, and you wonder if she's real or a ghost of kindness in this sea of struggle. The sun is rising higher now, illuminating the filth in a way that's almost beautiful if you squint and ignore the smell. You cough. Twice. That's probably not great, but you're vertical, mobile, and so far unjailed. In 18th century Paris, that's practically a win. You move forward. You'll need food. You'll need to avoid city guards. You'll need luck. And most of all, you'll need to survive the rest of this godforsaken day. Good luck with that. You head down the street with your single crust of bread, chewing like it's a rare delicacy. Because in a way, it is. Your jaw aches. The bread is basically limestone, and you're almost positive you chip a tooth on something hard inside. Is it a rock? A grain? A bug? You don't ask. You're too hungry to care. As you chew and shuffle forward, you pass a row of stalls that barely count as shops. Most of them are crates stacked with random items, cabbages that have clearly given up, onions with suspicious bruises, and bread so old it might qualify as antique. The vendors shout at each other more than at the customers. One man is swearing at a pigeon that keeps stealing his goods. The pigeon, in turn, glares back like it's owed restitution. You pause at a stall selling warm liquid in dented tin mugs. There's no sign, no label, and no confirmation that it's food, but it's steaming, and your fingers are cold. The vendor, a wiry woman with soot on her cheeks and one long eyebrow that connects across her forehead like a political statement, squints at you. 1 sou, she says. You hand her your last coin, the only one you have, and receive a mug. The first sip is alarming. It tastes like someone boiled a potato, added dishwater, and stirred in some sort of bitterness that could either be herbs or emotional trauma. Still, it's warm. You keep drinking. Next to you, a man slurps his own mug and whispers, "They say the Queen eats pheasant for breakfast." You nod, unsure how to respond. "And chocolate," he adds darkly. "Warm like this, but with magic in it." He gestures to his mug, which clearly has no magic whatsoever. He finishes it in one gulp and shuffles off, muttering something about taxes. Historians still argue whether or not Marie Antoinette ever actually drank chocolate every morning, or if it's a legend built on her reputation for decadence. What is not in question is that no one in this neighborhood is starting their day with chocolate, or pheasant for that matter. They're starting it with questionable liquid and a lot of wishful thinking. You continue walking past a woman frying what appears to be old bread and garlic on a small fire made from broken chair legs. She offers you a glance and a sniff, but not a sample. You keep moving. A boy runs by, waving a potato like it's treasure. He's chased by 2 others, one of whom is wielding a spoon like a weapon. The potato changes hands twice before someone trips and lands in a pile of laundry hanging from a line strung between 2 buildings. The woman who owns the laundry appears and starts yelling in a voice that makes your ears ring. The boys scatter. Around the next corner, you see what could be a bakery, though you use that term very loosely. It's really just a man with a pile of dark, round lumps on a tray and a brick oven that looks like it or survived 3 fires and a duel. He sees you looking and grins. Bread, he offers. Fresh from this morning's fire. You lean closer. It smells vaguely edible, earthy, smoky, and a little like burnt hair. You ask how much. He eyes you up and down, then points to your mug. Trade? You hesitate. The mug is still half full, but then again you're still half hungry. You hand it over and he gives you a roll the size of your palm. You take a bite. It's chewy, salty, and surprisingly okay. There's something gritty in it. Maybe flour, maybe sand. You decide not to investigate. You're just grateful your jaw still works. Behind you, someone sneezes so violently you flinch. A woman leans against a wall, coughing into her shawl. Her eyes are sunken. She looks at you like she might ask for something, money, food, magic, but then just turns and disappears into the crowd. Disease is always nearby. It breathes on your neck. Smallpox, dysentery, tuberculosis, they don't knock. They stroll in like they own the place. You remind yourself not to touch your face and immediately touch your face. At the far end of the alley, you spot a man sitting with a large sack. He's humming a tune that might be a lullaby or just random vowel sounds. Soup, he offers, lifting the lid of a battered pot. You lean in, peering into a brownish liquid with mysterious floating objects. Some are vegetables, some are not. What's in it? You ask. He shrugs. Everything. You look into your pocket, find nothing, and are about to decline when he scoops some into a bowl and hands it over anyway. You look like you need it more than me. You thank him and sit beside a barrel. The soup is hot. It tastes like turnips maybe, or socks. But again, warmth is its own flavour here. The man tells you he used to be a carpenter until his workshop burned down. 3rd fire this year, he says, not bitter, just tired. Started with a candle or a cat, hard to say. He laughs and you laugh too, because what else do you do when you're re-eating sock soup with a stranger in a fire-prone alley? A cart rumbles past, splashing both of you with gutter water. Good luck today, he says, raising his bowl. You raise yours too. As you stand to leave, a girl stops you. She's missing 2 teeth and holding out a small rag doll with a crooked button eye. Trade? She asks. You don't have anything left to offer, but she presses the doll into your hand anyway and skips off. You look down at it. The stitching is uneven. The yarn hair is half missing, but it's a gift. Someone gave you something without asking for anything back. You tuck the doll into your coat and step back into the stream of people. The streets are busier now. More noise, more movement, more stories unfolding at every corner. And somehow, despite the grime and the cold and the lack of literally everything you're used to, something like humanity is happening all around you. You take a deep breath, instantly regret it, and keep walking. You keep walking past a butcher's stall that smells like it gave up weeks ago. A suspicious pile of something pinkish lies in a wheelbarrow beside a handwritten sign that just says meat. You don't ask, you don't stop, you're learning. Your feet hurt. Not the regular "I've walked a lot" ache, but the special kind of pain that comes from shoes with soles as thin as excuses. Your socks are wet, assuming you still have socks, and your toes have gone from cold to numb to not my problem anymore. You spot a break in the crowd up ahead and follow it, hoping for what exactly? A warm tavern, a clean bench, a street where nobody is yelling. What you find instead is a skinny alley and the soft metallic sound of, what is that? Clinking. You follow the sound and discover the entrance to a small forge. It's less blacksmith shop and more very determined pile of metal. Inside, a man with arms like tree trunks is hammering a glowing horseshoe on an anvil that looks older than most countries. The heat rushes over you like an angry blanket. For once, you're warm. He glances up. You lost? You shake your head no. You looking for work? You pause. Technically, you're not looking for anything. But you also don't have a plan, or food, or dry feet. So naturally, you nod. He jerks his thumb toward a pile of coal. Shovel it. No instructions, no safety gloves, no waiver forms, just you, a shovel, and the universal understanding that if you drop that coal wrong, someone's house might explode. You get to work. It's not glamorous. Your arms protest immediately. The coal is heavier than it looks, and your muscles have been mostly decorative until now. But you shovel, you sweat, your face turns black with soot, and your lungs develop an entirely new cough. The blacksmith grunts approvingly once in a while, which feels like a hug in this context. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, it's always a little too close to your face. Ever forged anything? He asks. You shake your head. Ever been burned? You hesitate, then nod. Emotionally, yes. He laughs and hands you a pair of tongs. Hold this iron, don't drop it. If you do, we'll both regret it. You hold. Your arms shake. The heat makes your vision ripple, and the iron glows like a warning. The hammer comes down, once, twice, and you feel the shock all the way to your shoulder blades. It's like being slapped by a very angry oven. By the time he's done shaping whatever it is, a hinge, a hook, a very assertive paperweight, your knees are jelly and your shirt is a watercolor of sweat and soot. You look like a chimney that got into a fight. Not bad, the blacksmith says, wiping his brow. You're soft, but not useless, I praise. He gives you a chunk of bread as payment. It's warm. It might even be fresh. You would cry if you weren't so dehydrated. As you chew in exhausted triumph, he tells you stories about the old days before the fire, before his second wife left him, before the price of nails tripled. They say there's a shortage of everything, he grumbles. Wood, iron, trust. You nod. You have no nails, no wood, and not much trust left either. He gestures toward a crude map scrawled on the wall with charcoal. That's where the riot was, he says, pointing. Back in '76, they burned the bakery. No one remembers why. Historians still argue whether those small food riots were acts of organized protest or spontaneous chaos born from too many hungry mouths and not enough flour. Either way, someone always got blamed and someone always got trampled. You ask if he ever thought about leaving the city. He laughs. To where? The countryside? Where the wolves vote on tax policy? He spits on the floor. Paris might stink, but it's ours. You stay until the sun starts to dip. Your shoulders ache. Your back feels like it's aged a decade. But you've earned something. You've contributed. That feels strange, good, real. As you thank him and head out, he tosses you a small bent nail. First one you didn't drop, he says. Keep it. You pocket the nail like it's treasure. It is. You step back onto the street, and the cold punches you square in the lungs. The soot on your skin turns clammy and your hands sting. But your heart is warm. Your stomach is less empty. And you have a nail. You pass the butcher again. He nods at you. You nod back. A silent exchange of mutual understanding. Yes, life is terrible. But at least we're not soup. A child runs by shouting something about the fishmonger's cat, and you're not sure if that's an insult or a breaking news alert. An old woman is roasting chestnuts on a pan over a trash fire. She's singing, off-key, but proud. You give her your warmest smile. She responds by yelling at you to move your shadow. It's blocking her heat. Back in the slums, everything is starting to quiet down. Slightly. The streets aren't any cleaner and the air isn't any fresher, but there's a different energy now, less frantic, more waiting. People are preparing for nightfall when everything gets harder and more uncertain. You find a spot against a wall and sit, legs stretched out, bread crust clutched like gold. You're not warm, you're not clean, and you're definitely not safe, but you're here. You watch the light fade behind the rooftops, each tile holding some story you'll never know. The blacksmith's hammer echoes faintly in the distance. Somewhere, a baby cries. Somewhere else, a drunk laughs too loud. And above it all, Paris exhales. You made it through another piece of the day. You're still alive. And in a place like this, that's a pretty decent achievement. You wake from your street-side rest to the distinctive sound of yelling, specifically 2 women shouting from opposite windows, several floors up, with hand gestures so aggressive they look like they're casting spells. It's unclear what the argument's about, but you catch the phrase last turnip, and something about a husband who smells like goat. You move on quickly. The afternoon light has turned thick and gold, casting long shadows across the alleyways. It's that time of day when the slums begin their strange transition from exhausted survival to chaotic semi-socializing. You're about to experience something that could almost, generously, be called community. Ahead of you, in a wider part of the street, there's a crowd. At first, you think it might be a fight. Then you hear laughter. Genuine, raucous laughter. You inch closer and find a circle of people surrounding a man in a green waistcoat with half a violin and a whole lot of charisma. "I once saw the king sneeze," he declares, "right into a roast duck." The crowd roars. He plays a few disjointed notes, twirls his hat, and launches into a story involving a fishmonger, a goat, and what might have been a bishop. You don't follow all the details, but his delivery is flawless. Standing next to you is a woman with arms full of rags and a skeptical expression. "That's Henri," she says. "He says he used to perform for nobility." You ask, "Did he?" She snorts. "He can't even spell nobility, but he's funny. That's worth something." She offers you a piece of apple, brown at the edges, but still sweet. You eat it. For a moment, you forget how much your back hurts. Just then, you feel a tug on your coat. A boy, no older than 10, looks up at you with wide eyes. "You dropped something," he says, holding out your bent nail, the one the blacksmith gave you. Your heart does a little flip. You take it gratefully, and he vanishes into the crowd, probably a pickpocket with a conscience, rare breed. You stay for the end of Henri's act, which concludes with him juggling 3 onions and 1 boot. The boot hits someone. The onions are stolen. Henri bows anyway. Thunderous applause. The crowd disperses into the surrounding side streets. You follow the flow of bodies, feeling slightly more human than before. A man calls out from a doorway, "Cards, bets, fortune and failure." You don't have money, so you pass by, but the man yells after you, "That's okay, losing's free." You continue down a narrow street where the buildings are so close together, the sun hasn't touched the cobblestones in hours. A cat watches you from a second-floor windowsill. It doesn't blink. At the end of the street, you find a tavern, or what the locals call one. The sign is just a painted mug on a door that looks like it's seen more punches than repairs. Inside, it's dark, loud, and smells like every bad decision ever made. You step in. The bartender is a woman with one eye and the calm energy of someone who has thrown many, many people out by the ear. She slides a tankard down the counter before you even say anything. You look at her. "First one's on the house," she says. "Only the first." You sip it. It tastes like bread, apples, and betrayal. But it's cold and fizzy, and it makes your shoulders untense for the first time all day. Around you, people are drinking, arguing, singing off-key. A man with an accordion is attempting a tune that might be a love song or might be a warning. Someone nearby slams a fist on a table. No way the revolution will happen before winter. A few heads turn. One woman mutters, "It already started." Historians still argue whether the people in slum neighborhoods were politically engaged or simply caught in the wake of larger forces. Based on this tavern, the answer is both, plus a lot of beer. You notice a quiet figure in the corner, sketching on a scrap of paper. You sneak a glance. It's a rough drawing of the bartender tossing someone through a window. Accurate. You raise your mug in her direction. She nods. There's an understanding now. Then the door bursts open. A man with flushed cheeks and flailing arms announces, "The cheese market's on fire." No one moves. One guy shouts, "Again?" The bartender sighs, refills your mug without asking, and mutters, "At least it's not the cabbage market this time." You're halfway through your second drink when a man approaches your table. He has no teeth, a bow tie made of string, and introduces himself as Maurice. You shake his hand, it's surprisingly warm, and he begins telling you how he once courted a duchess, using only poetry and a loaf of bread. Is it true? Almost definitely not. But the story is good, and Maurice tells it like it's gospel. When you laugh, he grins, then leans in and whispers, "You don't belong here, do you?" You freeze. He taps his nose. "Don't worry. Everyone's from somewhere else." You sit back, unsure whether you've just made a friend or been cursed. Either way, the room feels less foreign now. As night creeps closer, the tavern dims. Candles are lit, more songs are mumbled, and someone tries to dance and ends up on the floor. No one helps him up, but someone does steal his drink. You slip outside before things get too rowdy. The cold air hits your flushed face like a slap from a polite ghost. The sky is streaked with red. Chimney smoke drifts like lazy ghosts across the rooftops. Everything smells like bread and coal and other people's dinners. You walk slowly now. The streets are quieter, less chaos, more murmurs. Someone plays a flute far away. A baby cries even farther. Somewhere nearby, a couple argues in whispers that still somehow echo. You reach the place where Henri performed and find it empty now, just the faint onion scent lingering in the air. You smile to yourself, tuck the bent nail deeper into your pocket, and keep walking. You're still here. You wake up with someone's elbow in your ribcage and a rooster screaming somewhere far too close. You're back in your borrowed corner of a tenement room, and the air is so thick with human breath and last night's ale that you wonder if it's technically soup now. It takes a moment to remember where you are, what time it is, and whether or not you still have your shoes. You do, one of them. The light filtering through the rag on the window is grey and heavy. Rain's coming. Or fog. Or both. Someone coughs, deep, rattling, and someone else curses in response. Another day in the slums. You shuffle downstairs past a man asleep with a cabbage tucked under his chin like a pillow. Outside, the street is already moving, vendors setting up, carts creaking along, and the smell of wet bread settling over everything like a disappointing blanket. And then you hear it. "You!" a voice booms. You freeze. A city guard storms toward you, wide stance, big boots, even bigger hat. He points a finger at you like it owes him money. "You're not from around here," he growls. You open your mouth to say something, anything, but he keeps going. You've been seen loitering, watching, asking questions. You blink. You literally have not spoken to anyone in 12 hours. "I'll need to see your papers." Ah, the famous Parisian paperwork. Everyone in the city was supposed to carry a lettre de résidence, a document confirming they belonged. Of course, most slum dwellers didn't have one because 1, no one cared enough to give them one, and 2, paper costs money, and you can't eat paper. Well, you can, but only once. You stammer. I don't have... Suspicious, he says, narrowing his eyes. Historians still argue whether the guard force of 18th century Paris maintained law and order or merely performed a kind of bureaucratic theatre, especially in slum areas where law was a suggestion and order was a myth. You try again. I'm just trying to get bread, he snorts. So is everyone. That's what starts revolutions. You're not sure if he's joking. Then from behind, someone yells, "The fish stand's on fire!" The guard groans like this is the 3rd fish stand this week, mutters something about incompetence, and jogs away. You stare after him, mouth open, then slowly exhale. Close call. You make your way back toward the market, slowly, casually, like someone who definitely has legal residency. The crowd is thicker now, everyone either buying, begging, or eyeing pockets. You pass a stall selling greyish sausages and another one hawking what appears to be leftover soup in used bottles. You're about to move on when a man steps in front of you. Thin, hunched, and covered in layers of wool, he flashes something shiny. "Interested in an identity?" he whispers. You look down. It's a forged paper. Poorly forged. "Good price," he adds. You ask how much. He says, "Half a loaf of bread." You offer the stale end you've been hoarding. He takes it like it's a wedding ring. In return, he hands you the paper. It says your name is Jacques something, and that you were born in a village that no longer exists. The ink is smudged. There's a wine stain on the corner. It's perfect. You tuck it into your coat, already feeling more legitimate. A few stalls down, you see a line forming. Soup. You get in line. No one talks. The rain starts falling, light, cold, and persistent. You pull your coat tighter. Ahead of you, a woman starts coughing. Not the delicate kind, the kind that comes from deep inside the lungs where secrets and infections live. Everyone in line subtly shifts away from her, but no one says anything. When your turn comes, you hold out your hands. The soup man squints at you, then at your forged paper. "Jacques," he says. You nod with the confidence of someone who believes in alternate timelines. He shrugs and ladles something into your cup. You smell turnips or old socks. Either way, it's hot. You step aside and sip it slowly. It burns your tongue. You don't care. A girl beside you whispers, "That's not real paper." You glance at her. She's maybe 12, with fierce eyes and a scar across her cheek. You say, "It is now." She nods, like she respects that answer. As you drink, a man starts preaching from a barrel nearby. He's barefoot, his robe is torn, and his beard is doing all the work of authority. "The city is sinking," he shouts. "The Queen bathes in wine while we bathe in puddles." A few people clap. A few boo. One man throws a chicken leg. The preacher catches it, bites it, and keeps yelling. "Soon the streets will run red, not with wine, not with soup, but with fire and fury." He raises his arms. Lightning strikes somewhere in the distance. It's almost impressive. You finish your soup. The guard from earlier reappears down the road. You pull your coat tighter and move on. In the distance, the tolling of church bells rolls over the rooftops like a warning. You duck into a narrow alley, letting the crowd pass. You're tired. Not sleepy tired. Tired in the bones, in the soul, in the "how did I end up here" kind of way. But you're still upright. Still not arrested. And now, technically, you're Jacques. You lean against a damp wall, take a deep breath, regret it instantly, and let the rain tap out a rhythm on your shoulder. A man walks past and mutters, "Better run. They're checking papers down by the bridge." You nod. It's going to be a long evening. You move fast, but not too fast, just enough to look busy without looking suspicious, which is an extremely thin line to walk in 18th century Paris. The rain's picked up now, that particular Parisian drizzle that doesn't soak you all at once, but gradually convinces every fibre of your clothing to surrender. You duck into an alley behind a bakery, which you can tell is a bakery only because of the faint scent of scorched flour and the presence of several loaves that appear to be guarding the back door like lumpy sentinels. You pause under the narrow eaves and take a moment to breathe. You're cold, wet, and now technically in possession of forged documents, if you count smudged ink on cheap paper as documents. You do. You're committed. Out of the mist, a familiar voice calls, "Jacques!" You freeze. It's the soup vendor. Why is he yelling? Why is he running? Is the paper really that bad? "Jacques!" he calls again, waving something above his head. You brace for arrest. Instead, he hands you a chunk of bread wrapped in cloth. You forgot your crust. Paid for it. You might as well eat it. You're stunned. "Thank you," you manage. He shrugs. "You don't last long around here if you waste food." Before you can say more, he's gone, vanishing back into the soup-lined fog like some kind of culinary spectre. You munch the bread. It's soft in the center. You nearly cry. Then, from inside the bakery, a muffled scream. You peer through a hole in the door and see chaos. A rat has somehow gotten into the flour sacks. A woman is swinging a broom wildly while shouting an ongoing string of French curses that sound like jazz. A man is laughing so hard he nearly drops a tray of half-baked rolls. You move on. As you wind your way back through the slums, you notice a line forming near the far end of the alley. You follow it, because in places like this, any line is either for food or something interesting. You're hoping for both. Turns out, it's a pop-up medical clinic. By clinic, you mean a rickety table, 3 mismatched stools, and a man in a frayed coat with a magnifying glass, a bottle of vinegar, and what appears to be a small, slightly judgmental pigeon on his shoulder. "Next!" he barks. The man in front of you limps forward and removes his boot. You regret watching immediately. The doctor pokes the foot with a stick, winces, then yells to no one, "This one's haunted!" "Wait your turn," he tells you. When he sees you flinch, you sit on a stool that's more splinter than furniture and try not to touch anything. "What's wrong with you?" he asks. You shrug. Exhaustion, hunger, and a vague existential dread. "Ah," he says, nodding solemnly. "Common." He hands you a jar filled with what looks like brown water and a single floating leaf. "Drink this and lie down in a dark place, or a bright one, whichever is easier to escape." You ask what it is. "Mostly vinegar, some carrot, I think." Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. The pigeon flaps once and lands on the doctor's head. "Is it safe?" you ask. The doctor squints. "Safer than living here." You take a sip. It tastes like salad dressing made by someone going through a crisis. But your headache dulls. Maybe from the vinegar. Maybe from the trauma. "Next!" the doctor calls and you're dismissed. As you walk away, you pass a woman tying onion peels to her wrists. You exchange nods. No explanation needed. Historians still debate the legitimacy of slum medicine in pre-revolutionary Paris. Some argue it was a blend of folk wisdom and necessity. Others say it was performance art with a side of placebo. All agree it rarely helped, but sometimes made people feel like they'd tried something, which, in desperate times, is almost enough. You wander through a market square now turned muddy battlefield. A man is trying to sell umbrellas made of wood and parchment. One has caught fire from a nearby lantern. He's still selling it. Another man is preaching from atop a crate, holding up a jar. This powder cures sadness, coughs, and also goats. You don't ask how, you don't want to know. Nearby, a child is trying to trade buttons for an old comb. Her hands are purple from the cold, but she negotiates like royalty. You pause at a booth where someone is selling tattered books, romance novels, philosophical rants, half a cookbook. One is labelled How to Survive in the City. You open it. The first page says, Don't. You laugh, loudly enough that a man next to you joins in, even though he didn't read it. I'm Jean, he says, offering a hand. You shake it. Jacques, you reply, out of habit now. He nods approvingly. Solid name, he offers you a coin, just like that. For the laugh, he says. You try to refuse, but he insists. Take it. That joke was worth a sou. So now you have a coin, a real one. You're stunned. He claps you on the back. Use it for something stupid, that's what I'd do. He walks off, whistling a tune you think you recognize from the tavern. With your newfound wealth, you buy an apple that's only mildly bruised and a scarf made from what might once have been a curtain. It smells vaguely like soup, but it's warm. You're not picky. As the light starts to fade, you sit beneath a crumbling wall, apple in hand, vinegar in your stomach, and pigeon medicine in your system. You made it through another stretch of the day. You have a coin, a scarf, a name that's not yours, and a bent nail in your pocket. And somehow, for just a moment, you feel okay. Evening creeps in like a pickpocket, slow, sneaky, and ready to ruin your last shred of optimism. The sky has turned the color of wet ashes, and every breeze carries a new smell. Burnt onions, sewage, and something that might once have been a goat. You're not sure if your nose is adapting or giving up entirely. You're walking again, mostly because standing still draws too much attention. Movement is your camouflage now. You drift past shuttered stalls, dim lanterns, and a man enthusiastically selling potato futures. You're not entirely sure what that means, but based on the sack he's standing on, it might just be literal potatoes. Then you hear it, a clatter, a cheer, and someone shouting, "Help wanted!" You follow the sound to a corner where a squat woman is angrily waving a mop at two fleeing boys. "Thieves!" she yells. "They took the basin!" She sees you. "Hey, you got arms?" You nod, more out of instinct than courage. "Great," she says. "You just got hired. You've apparently become an assistant laundress." She points to a tub filled with water that looks like it lost a fight with a chimney. "Scrub. Don't drink it. Don't ask what's floating." And so you scrub. Shirts, linens, handkerchiefs, something that might be a dog blanket. The soap is made from lie and regret. Your fingers prune immediately, your wrists ache, and there's a smell coming from the water that could be historical in origin. Still, you keep going. Because you were promised payment, a heel of bread, and if you're lucky, a sip of something medicinal. The woman, whose name turns out to be Margot, talks non-stop as she works. "Back in the day," she says, "we used the river, but then the fish started dying and some bishop said we were cursing the water." "Were you?" you ask. "Only on laundry day," she says. "Margot tells you she used to wash clothes for nobility, not the real ones, the ones who pretend they're noble because their grandfather owned a window." She says this while wringing out what might be a shirt, or possibly a very tired curtain. You ask if she likes the work. She stops, looks at you and says, "Kid, nobody likes this work, but we like eating, and I happen to be very fond of eating." She gives you a wink and keeps scrubbing. You start to find a rhythm. Soak, scrub, rinse. Soak, scrub, rinse. The water darkens, your fingernails surrender. But you keep going. Then Margot offers you the medicinal reward, a tin cup of brownish liquid that smells like licorice and bad decisions. You drink. Your tongue tingles, your brain fizzes. "What is this?" you ask, slightly alarmed. She grins. "Homebrew. My uncle makes it. Or he used to. He might be blind now." You laugh. You shouldn't. But you do. And for a few glorious minutes, the ache in your back fades. Your hands feel less like claws, and the sky doesn't seem so low. Margot hands you the bread, dense, hard, possibly weaponized, and says, "You did okay, Jacques?" It still surprises you every time someone calls you that. As you chew, she nods toward the alley. "Go on, before it gets dark. You leave the laundry station feeling slightly accomplished, slightly intoxicated, and slightly unsure if your hands will ever return to their original shape. You head toward the river, mostly following the scent of fish and desperation. Along the way, you pass a man yelling about cheese taxes again, a woman selling wilted herbs, and a group of teens playing a game that appears to involve hitting each other with baguettes. Down by the Seine, the sky opens up, just for a moment. The river reflects the city's glow, warm lanterns, sputtering torches, a million stories flickering all at once. It's not pretty, but it's something close. You sit on a crate and let your legs dangle over the edge. The water flows slow and dark beneath you. It carries secrets, laundry soap, hopes, things better left unmentioned. Next to you, a fisherman packs up his net. He eyes your soggy, soot-covered self and asks, "You working or wandering?" "Bit of both," you reply. He nods, like that makes perfect sense. He offers you a piece of dried fish. You take it because that's what you do now. Accept strange food from strangers and don't ask follow-up questions. He says, "Once caught a boot with a gold coin in it. Spent 3 years trying to find its twin." You ask if he ever did. "No," he says, "but I found a sword once, and a potato shaped like the Pope." He laughs so hard he coughs. You laugh with him. Historians still debate how often river finds were exaggerated for storytelling or trade value. What's certain is that slum dwellers made legends out of anything: fish, rats, odd-shaped vegetables. When you have little, you make magic from crumbs. The fisherman packs up and wishes you luck. "You'll need it," he says, not unkindly. You wander back toward the buildings as night begins to settle in. The lanterns sway gently on their posts. Shadows stretch. Voices quiet. You pass a boy selling candles and buy one with your last coin. It flickers in your hand, tiny but real. A little flame against all the damp and dark. You find a nook beneath an old stairwell and settle in. The stone is cold. The wood creaks. But it's shelter. You light the candle, watch it dance, feel your eyelids grow heavy. You've hauled laundry, you've drank fire, and you've survived another strange, terrible, oddly beautiful day. Not bad for a man named Jacques, who isn't really Jacques. Morning hits you like a sack of bricks thrown from a third-story window, which, in this neighborhood, is not a metaphor. You flinch awake just in time to see a tin basin fly past your head and crash into the cobblestones. Somewhere above you, someone yells, "I told you not to use my soap, Gerard." You decide it's time to move. You stretch. Every muscle protests. Your spine audibly regrets everything. The laundry aches are still with you, your fingers are stiff, and your mouth tastes like an argument between vinegar and chalk. But the candle stub beside you is still warm. A tiny miracle. Your goal today? Work. Again. Money or food. Maybe both, if the gods of the gutter smile on you. You head toward the riverfront, where laborers gather to haul goods from boats or load crates into wagons. A tall man with a clipboard and permanent scowl points at you before you even speak. You have arms, you're hired. You're too tired to protest. Within minutes, you're on a barge with 4 other men, knee-deep in sloshing water and crates that smell like fish and despair. Your job: unload salted cod, stack it on carts, and try not to pass out. You do your best. The cod is heavy, slippery, wrapped in burlap that leaves powder on your hands and shame in your soul. By crate 3, your back is begging for mercy. By crate 6, you've stopped feeling your toes. At some point, you realize you're humming to yourself just to stay sane. The man beside you, wide shoulders, missing eyebrow, nods approvingly. "Sing louder," he says. "Cod likes music." You chuckle. He's serious. He tells you his name is Claude, and he's been working the river since he was 7. "Used to dream of sailing," he says. "Then I learned boats are full of fish guts and angry rats. Now I just lift things." He lifts a crate like it's a pillow. Claude points to a man asleep on top of a barrel. "That's Bertrand. He once stole a horse to propose to a girl. Made it halfway through the sentence before the horse ran off, and the girl ran faster." You laugh, nearly drop a fish. "Bertrand's fine," Claude adds. "He caught a different girl eventually. And a disease. The stories keep coming." Between crates, Claude tells you about the ghost boat that sails on foggy Tuesdays, the eel that sings in Latin, and the dock worker who insists Napoleon was actually 3 raccoons in a uniform. Historians still argue whether riverfront workers were more superstitious or just extremely creative. Based on Claude, it's both. You unload 30 crates before someone finally hands you a piece of bread and a jug of something with a cork in it. The bread is decent. The drink smells like pickled fruit and mild hallucinations. You take a sip. It bites. You cough. Claude slaps your back hard enough to reset your posture. By midday, the barge is empty. Claude waves you off. "You'll do," he says. "Try not to die before next week." You wander away with a bit of coin, a bit of a limp, and the smell of fish permanently embedded in your pores. You find a fountain and splash your face. The water is cold, but it helps, kind of. You pass a group of children trying to catch pigeons with a sack and a dream. One actually succeeds, and the cheering echoes like victory. You stop by a quiet courtyard where a man is selling good luck stones. They're just rocks, regular rocks. You buy one anyway. It's smooth and oddly comforting. You tuck it into your pocket with the bent nail, the forged papers, and your now pungent scarf. You're building quite the collection of nonsense, but somehow it matters. You follow your nose to a market square filled with smells, mostly bad, but one is amazing. Freshly fried dough. You find the source, a woman with flour on her nose and a pan sizzling over a coal fire. She's frying rounds of dough in animal fat and sprinkling them with what might be sugar or possibly sand. You don't care. You hand over some of your new coin. She hands you a golden, bubbling, still warm circle of happiness. You take a bite. It's everything. It's sweet. It's crunchy. It's the highlight of your week. She sees your reaction and grins. "First one's free for handsome boys." You laugh. "I already paid." "Then the second one's free for liars," she says, handing you another. As you eat, you watch the city around you. Merchants bartering, kids racing with carts. A man in a stovepipe hat playing cards with a dog. Nobody wins. Everyone just keeps going. You walk toward the river again, drawn by the smell of coal and the hope of more stories. By a bridge, a crowd is gathered. A man with wild hair and a velvet coat is reading poetry to an audience of exactly 3 people, 2 of whom are definitely asleep. The third is knitting. You stay to listen. The poem makes no sense, but it sounds important. The last line is something about a crow in love with a lamp post. No one claps. The poet bows anyway. The knitter glances at you. He's been doing this every day for 6 years. Why? Because he forgot how to stop. You nod. That makes sense here. The poet starts another verse. You leave before he rhymes existential dread with baguette. As evening begins to drape itself across the rooftops, you realize your hands no longer shake. Your legs ache, yes, but you're upright, fed and paid. That's a slum triple crown. You walk slowly through the dimming streets. A man plays a flute from a windowsill. A cat watches you from a crate like you owe it rent. You wave, it blinks. You make your way back to your favorite stairwell, light your dwindling candle stub, and settle in. Today, you earned your bread, dodged another guard, and survived the fish job. You even got free fried dough. You smile in the dark, holding the good luck stone in one hand and your bent nail in the other. You are, against all odds, doing okay. Night in the Paris slums isn't just darker, it's heavier. The shadows press in. The streets narrow. Every creak sounds like a footstep. Every footstep sounds like it might be meant for you. You wake with a start. Someone's walking nearby, slow, deliberate, dragging something. It might be a sack. It might be a leg. You hold your breath and listen as the sound fades, replaced by the shrill song of a rat doing something very enthusiastic in a gutter. You shift under your scarf blanket, which smells even more strongly of fish today. You can't tell if it's comforting or just tragic now. It's cold, not the crisp kind, the wet, bone-sifting kind. You can feel your breath, but not your fingers. You sit up slowly, rubbing your arms, truly wishing you'd stolen a second curtain scarf from that market. You spot a candle burning faintly in a nearby window. Probably someone who couldn't sleep either. Probably someone just like you, too poor to get warm, too tired to stay awake, too afraid to close both eyes at the same time. Today's task is simple. Survive the cold. That's it. You start moving because motion is heat, and standing still is surrender. You wander toward a public square where a few fires are burning in barrels, fed by broken chairs and whatever paper people can spare. It smells like oak, ink, and desperation. A cluster of people huddle around the flames. One man is wearing half a mattress. A woman cradles a baby wrapped in 2 coats and a political pamphlet from 1743. No one talks, they just breathe near each other. You edge into the circle. No one protests. You're part of the shivering mass now. Welcome. After a while, someone starts humming, a tune you vaguely recognize, something about a lost lover or maybe a chicken. Hard to say. The others join in slowly, not quite harmonizing, but not quite awful either. Then a man sneezes directly into the fire. The flames sputter, everyone scowls, he shrugs, you move on. You pass a narrow alley where someone has lit candles on a windowsill shaped like a broken harp. A small group of children is gathered beneath it, wrapped in each other like puppies. An older girl is telling them a story. And then the sun came back, and it never rained again, she says. The kids cheer, even though they all know she's lying. You stop, watch from a distance. She catches your eye, gives a nod. You nod back. That's the closest thing to a handshake in this part of the world. Farther along, you stumble upon an abandoned market cart. There's a tarp over it, heavy with dew. You lift a corner, there's nothing underneath but dust and a single broken spoon. Still, you pocket the spoon. You're building a museum of sorts now. A bent nail, a good luck stone, a forged name, and a spoon no one wanted. You walk past the church. It looms above the slums like a parent who's given up on you but still watches. The doors are closed, always closed at this hour. The bell tower rises silent. Inside, maybe warmth, maybe soup, but you're not allowed. There's a man leaning against the wall outside, talking to himself or maybe praying. He's whispering names over and over. You don't interrupt. You make your way to the river again. The Seine looks black now, thick and slow. A barge glides silently through the water. No lights, no sound. A shape moves on it, a man, maybe a ghost. You watch it pass like it's a dream or a warning. Historians still debate whether people in the slums believed more in ghosts because they were superstitious or because they'd simply seen too much to doubt anything anymore. Either way, everyone has a story. Yours is still unfolding. You find a nook between two buildings where the wind can't quite reach. There's straw on the ground. You sit, hug your knees and try to remember warmth. Then you hear it. Footsteps. Not fast, not slow. Steady, close. You freeze. A figure appears, a boy, maybe 12. He stops a few feet from you and sets down a bundle. He doesn't say anything, just nods, then walks off. You stare at the bundle. It's cloth, ragged, patched, but thick. You pick it up. It's a blanket, a real one. Worn, yes, but clean. Someone gave this away, to you. You don't cry. Not because you're brave, but because you're too tired to make tears. You wrap it around your shoulders and sit back against the wall. The stars peek through cracks in the clouds. The fire smoke stings less now. A cat curls up a few feet away, its tail twitching in its sleep. You pull the blanket tighter, tuck your fingers into your scarf. You don't feel warm exactly, but you're not freezing. That's something. And in this city, on this night, that makes you one of the lucky ones. The blanket changes everything. It's threadbare, stained with stories you'll never know, and smells faintly of cabbage and soot. But to you, it's royalty. You wear it like armor, like proof that someone, somewhere, thought you were worth the effort. You wake slowly, fingers curled tight beneath the folds, toes stiff, but attached. The cat from last night is gone, but it left a small, warm dent next to you. You nod to no one in particular. It's going to be a day. Not a good day, necessarily, but a day. You emerge from your little crevice into a Paris morning that's less grey than usual. Still cloudy, still damp, but lighter somehow. The air carries the scent of stale bread and horse sweat, but the wind feels fresh, like it's borrowed from the countryside. Your first stop is the fountain, where you rinse your face and, out of sheer optimism, try to comb your hair with your fingers. It's not a success, but it's a ritual now, and rituals mean you're still trying. Today, you need work, or at least distraction. Anything to keep your stomach from realizing how empty it is. You follow the sound of shouting to a square where a man with a booming voice is declaring, "Strong backs needed, no questions asked." You glance around. The line isn't long, and no questions suits you just fine. You sign on, well, nod, technically, and before long, you're part of a team pushing carts up a steep hill. What's inside the carts? Barrels. What's inside the barrels? Stuff, the man says. Just roll and don't ask. So you roll. Up cobblestones that were not designed by anyone with compassion, past houses that lean like drunks, past a boy chasing a runaway chicken and two old women arguing over whose cat ate whose hat. It's hot work, brutal work. Your shoulders burn, your hands blister. You curse the existence of barrels, but you push. The man next to you is humming, a low, tuneless hum that somehow helps. You ask him what's in the barrels. He says, "Could be wine, could be gunpowder, could be pickles. I never check. That's how I've survived this long." You don't know if he's joking. You don't ask. Halfway up, a barrel slips. You and another man scramble to stop it, your feet skidding on wet stone. You catch it, barely. It smells like vinegar and something more sinister. "Definitely not wine," someone mutters. You keep going. When the job's done, you're given 2 coins and a slice of cold potato pie that tastes like disappointment. But it fills you, and for now, that's enough. As you rest on a curb, the humming man offers you a flask. You take a swig. It's sweet, sharp, and slightly smoky. He grins. "Apple peel brandy," he says. "Don't ask about the apple." You grin back. It's the first real smile you've had today. Later, as you wander the streets again, you pass a puppet show in progress. A tiny crowd of kids shriek with laughter as a fabric soldier gets whacked by a goose. The puppeteer, a woman with wild hair and a voice like gravel, winks at you. You want to try? You hesitate. She presses the goose puppet into your hand. "Go on," smack the soldier. You do. The children scream with delight. And just like that, you're part of the show. For 5 glorious minutes, you and the goose reign supreme. The soldier puppet stumbles, the goose honks, the crowd roars. When it's done, the puppeteer hands you a single button. "Payment," she says, "and a good performance." You pocket it with your spoon, nail, and good luck stone. The Museum of Jacques is growing. Historians still debate whether puppet shows were mere entertainment or quiet rebellion. After all, nothing undermines a tyrant like a goose with a stick. And children understand satire better than most scholars give them credit for. You walk on with your new treasure. At a corner, a man is selling old shoes, none match. You find a left shoe that's only slightly mouldy and trade a coin for it. It's one size too small, but it has a soul, and that's more than you can say for some people. You sit on a bench and switch shoes. Your feet look like they've survived a small war, but now they're mismatched in a more creative way. You feel bizarrely proud. A group of women pass by, giggling. One points at your shoes. "Très chic," she says. You grin. "Limited edition." They laugh and keep walking. Evening approaches. The city turns bronze under the setting sun, and for a moment, Paris almost looks kind. You head back to your stairwell, blanket over your shoulders like a cloak. Your belongings, your odd museum, jingle softly in your pockets. You're tired, yes. Your legs ache. Your back screams. But you've got a flask's worth of apple peel brandy in your system and a goose puppet memory in your heart. Not a bad day. Not a great one either. But in the Paris slums, you're starting to learn that not bad is something close to victory. You wake up because your foot is numb, like fully numb. The kind of numb that makes you wonder if you even still have a foot. You wiggle your toes. They respond, slowly, creakily, like they're waking up from their own nightmare. The blanket is still wrapped around you like a hug from someone who means well, but smells like old cabbage. And this morning, the air is colder than usual. Not the brisk cold of a mountain morning. This is the sneaky, creeping chill of damp stone, and no insulation. You can feel it in your jaw, in your elbows, in your mood. Today, you decide, is about survival by warmth. Food would be great. A nap would be divine. But staying warm, that's priority number 1. You start walking, not because you have somewhere to go, but because staying still will freeze your internal organs. Your first stop is the bakery. Not to buy anything, heavens no, you don't have the coin for that. But the chimney above the bakery spews heat like a dream, and if you stand just close enough to the wall, the warmth seeps out and kisses your face. You're not alone. A row of regulars stands there, eyes closed, soaking up the radiant bread oven glory. One of them is humming a hymn, another is chewing on what might be a stone. You join the lineup like it's a church service. 5 minutes later, the baker steps out, broom in hand, and waves you off like pigeons. You shuffle away with the others, all grumbling and resigned. Heat never lasts long here. Your next strategy? Body heat. But not in the scandalous sense. This is strictly communal huddling. You make your way to the public washhouse, which, despite the name, mostly serves as a social hub and unofficial weather shelter. Inside, it smells like soap, damp wool, and too many opinions. You find a bench between a woman knitting with her feet up and a man snoring like he's in an opera. No one asks why you're there, everyone knows. A conversation is already in progress. "They say the king's building a new furnace," says a voice from across the room. "For what? To warm his feet?" someone replies. "To melt his gold, probably." They all laugh, rough, wheezy, but real. You nod along. You've noticed this. The colder it gets, the funnier people try to be. Humour is the only insulation left. Next to you, a girl offers you a piece of fabric. "Put this on your chest, it helps. It's a square of linen that smells like thyme and smoke." You press it against your chest. It does help. "You're new," she says. You nod. "First winter?" She snorts. You'll cry by the second. You believe her. Historians still argue whether slum dwellers in Paris had organised systems of support or just chaotic webs of mutual endurance. Either way, there was always someone who'd hand you a piece of cloth without expecting anything back. After an hour, your limbs are functional again. You thank the girl, whose name might be Lou or Luke, you're not sure, and step back into the street. It's snowing, lightly, almost beautifully. But every flake is a threat. You walk faster, rubbing your hands together. Then you spot it. Smoke rising from a small alley. You follow it and find a man roasting chestnuts over a metal pan balanced on bricks. The smell is absurd. Roasted, sweet, charred perfection. You approach, wide-eyed. "3 for a coin," he says. You hesitate. You have 2 coins left. You think of hoarding them, but your stomach and frozen fingers vote otherwise. You hand one over. He hands you 3 chestnuts wrapped in paper. You pop the first one into your mouth. It burns your tongue. You don't care. It tastes like warmth itself. "You from the provinces?" the man asks. "Not anymore," you say. He nods like that's enough. He tells you his name is Emile. Used to be a watchmaker. "Now I'll watch people," he says, cracking a smile. You eat the chestnuts slowly, holding on to the heat with every bite. As you thank him and turn to go, he stops you. "Here," he says, tossing you one more. "For the road." 4 chestnuts, you might cry. You wrap your scarf tighter, chestnut warm in your pocket, and keep moving. The snow sticks to your shoes. Your hair dampens. But something inside you stays lit, like that pan of coals back in the alley. You head toward the old theatre. Closed now, boarded up, forgotten. But the overhang still provides shelter, and rumour has it the wind avoids that corner out of pity. You find a spot beneath it, curl your legs and pull the blanket up to your ears. The final chestnut becomes your dinner. You chew slowly, carefully, like it's the last good thing you'll ever taste. You watch the snow fall. No gang fights tonight. No shouting, just the hush of flakes and the occasional creak of the city settling in. You feel your heart slow, your fingers unclench, your breath turns to fog and fades. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, you are not shaking, and that in this place is nothing short of a miracle. Your dreams are strange. One moment, you're floating in a tub of soup, surrounded by singing chestnuts. The next, you're arguing with a goat who insists it's your landlord. You wake with a snort, your neck at a terrible angle, and one of your feet fully exposed to the elements. Rookie mistake. The snow has stopped, but the cold lingers like a stubborn debt collector. You stretch, crack every joint that dares, and re-wrap the blanket tighter. Your body complains, but it's still functioning, which is a win. Today, you need space. Not warmth, not food, not gossip or work or more fish. You need a break from the tight corners and tighter frowns. You need sky. So you climb, you wander until you find one of the taller buildings on the edge of the slum, where the roofs dip and tilt like they've grown tired of being straight. The walls are cracked but sturdy. You find a stack of crates and start your ascent. One crate, then another, a balcony rail, a drain pipe. Your fingers are numb, but your determination is oddly awake. You make it. The roof is slanted, patched with wood and rusted metal sheets, but the view is everything. You see all of it. Paris in layers, chimneys puffing like lazy volcanoes, rooftops glinting with frost, the distant shimmer of the Seine cutting through the city like a silver thread. Even the dome of the cathedral peeks through the mist. And far, far beyond, Versailles. It's a smudge on the horizon, a dream in stone, a place with fireplaces and silk napkins and chairs that don't creak when you breathe. You sit on a dry patch of tile, the blanket around your shoulders like a royal cape, and watch the sky. Above you, gulls scream at each other. One tries to land, slips, and gives up entirely. You nod. Relatable. Below you, the city moves, people haggling, children running, dogs chasing nothing. A woman hangs a bedsheet from a window. It freezes into a board before she's done. She shrugs. From here, the chaos is beautiful. Organized even, like ants. Noisy, shivering, poetic ants. A boy climbs up beside you, startling you. He's maybe 10, carrying a tin whistle and a small bag of dried peas. He sits a few feet away, nods like this is all normal. He plays a tune. It's awful. Then it gets better. Then awful again. You applaud. "Practicing for the king," he says, eyes twinkling. You ask if he thinks the king can hear him from this far. "Only if I hit the high notes," he replies, and squeals one just to prove it. You offer him part of your crusty roll from yesterday. He offers you 3 peas. "Don't eat them," he warns. "They're for luck." You add them to your pocket museum, now up to 6 items and counting. A bent nail, a button, a spoon, a good luck stone, a whistle pea, and now 2 bonus peas. You ask the boy his name. He says, "Whatever you want." "Today I'm Bernard." "Hi, Bernard." He grins. You sit in silence together, sharing air, sharing view. The cold is still there, but it's shared, so it feels lighter. Eventually, he stands. "Gotta go rob someone," he says, as if announcing lunch. You blink. "Kidding," he says, then pauses. "Probably." And he's gone. You sit a while longer, watching the frost thaw in the sunlight. Down below, someone spills a bucket of something that might have been soup. A dog celebrates. You think about Versailles again. About kings and queens in rooms too big, with beds too soft and meals too endless. You wonder if they ever climb their own roofs. Probably not. Historians still debate whether slum dwellers admired, hated, or pitied the royals. Likely all 3. Or maybe none. Maybe they just didn't think about them much. Survival doesn't leave a lot of space for daydreaming. You, though, you let yourself imagine. You imagine sitting in a velvet chair by a fireplace, sipping tea served by someone named Jacques, not you. You imagine warm socks, a bathtub, a door that locks, and then you imagine waking up in that life and missing this one, just a little. Missing the ridiculous joy of shared heat, of fried dough from strangers, of rooftop music from a tin whistle kid named Bernard. You stretch, bones popping like firewood. Time to climb down. You descend carefully, thanking every nail and board for staying solid. Your feet hit the ground, and it feels less like defeat than you expected. You're back where you belong, among the shouting and selling and scraping, among your people. A man passes you, carrying a duck under his arm. The duck is wearing a scarf. Neither explains. You head toward your usual spot, warmed by sky, filled with thoughts, and holding tight to your pocketful of unlikely treasures. You don't know what tonight will bring, but right now, in this moment, you feel, dare you say it, rich. You're walking with purpose now, or at least with the illusion of purpose, which is almost better. Your feet crunch softly over a layer of dirty frost, your hands tucked into the folds of your ever-loyal blanket cape. The sky's the color of dishwater, and it matches your mood. Not bad, not good, just hanging in there. You pass by two women selling questionable vegetables on a corner. One carrot has a moustache. You nod politely and keep moving. Not today, moustache carrot, not today. What you're after this afternoon isn't food or fire or even a soft place to nap. You're looking for something far rarer in the slums of Paris. Connection. Or, to put it bluntly, maybe a little romance. Now, romance here isn't candlelit dinners and poetry. It's more like, I won't steal your shoes if you won't steal my blanket. It's a glance, a laugh, the sharing of something warm, even if it's just breath in the cold. You head toward the fabric district, though district is generous. It's more like 4 tents and a woman named Claudette who sells torn lace and opinions in equal measure. There she is, wrapping a scarf around a mannequin made of stacked crates. Looking to impress someone, she says, without turning. You freeze. How did she... I can smell it, she adds, smirking. That particular stink of hope. You chuckle. Any advice? Don't talk about lice. Don't sneeze on them. And if you have onions, keep them to yourself. You thank her, eye a red scrap of cloth, and drape it around your neck. Fashion is relative. You look interesting. That's good enough. You spot her at the corner bread stall, mid-20s, layered in wool and practicality, with sharp eyes and a slow smile. She's haggling over crusts like they're diamonds. You gather courage the way you once gathered spilled lentils, awkwardly and with low expectations. Bread good today? You ask. She raises an eyebrow. Depends. You planning to steal it? No, I was hoping you'd share it. She looks at you, hard, then breaks off a piece and hands it over. Don't make me regret that, she says. You take it with reverence. I'm Jacques. She rolls her eyes. Of course you are. I'm Elise. And just like that, you're in a conversation. You learn that she has 2 sisters, a cat with half a tail, and a deep hatred for soggy boots. You nod along, offering appropriately timed groans and laughs. You tell her about your museum of useless treasures. She asks to see it. You show her the button, the spoon, the lucky peas. She hands you a dried rose petal. Add this, she says. It used to be part of something beautiful. You tuck it in carefully. It feels like a ceremony. A man nearby slips on a patch of ice and lets out a yelp that could wake the dead. Elise snorts. Romantic, huh? She says, gesturing to the slum around you. It's all about context, you reply. In Versailles, this would be tragic. Here, it's practically a date. She laughs. You walk together toward the edge of the district, where fewer people gather. The sun is sinking. Everything's dipped in golden grey. Elise stops and points to a cat sitting on a rooftop. That's Victor Hugo, she says. The writer? No, just a cat. But he looks literary. You sit on a bench that's more splinter than wood. She sits beside you, close but not touching. You both watch Victor Hugo stretch and vanish into a chimney. Do you think, she asks, we'll ever leave this place? You pause. Historians still argue whether most slum residents dreamed of escape or just dreamed of warmer blankets, you say. She smiles. That sounds like a line. It probably is. You stay like that for a while, not saying much, just breathing in sync. She's warm, you're warm. The bench creaks in protest, but it holds. Eventually she stands. Same place tomorrow? You nod. Bring something new for the museum, she adds, walking away. You look down at the dried petal in your hand. You already did. Later, back at your spot beneath the theatre overhang, you replay every word. You hold the petal up to the dim light and wonder if it still smells like a garden. It doesn't, but it does smell like possibility. Your stomach growls, your blanket slips, but your heart feels oddly full. Romance in 18th century Paris slums isn't glamorous. There are no violins, no sweet perfumes, just two people deciding briefly to make each other's world a little less terrible. And that, you decide, is more than enough. Night falls like a trapdoor, sudden and absolute. In the slums, when the light goes, so does any pretense of civility. What was chaotic during the day turns volatile after dark. The shadows stretch longer, the alleys grow teeth, and you find yourself listening harder, to footsteps, to whispers, to the echo of your own breath. You wrap your blanket tighter and keep to the center of the wider streets. That's the rule. Stay where someone might see you scream. Not that screaming helps. You pass a group of men playing dice near a broken cart. One has a bandage over his eye, another a crowbar resting on his knee like a sleeping pet. They laugh too loudly, their breath fogging in the cold. You don't look at them. You don't look away too quickly either, just enough to acknowledge and move on. Your footsteps quicken. The moon is mostly obscured by clouds, but once in a while it breaks through. Brief, pale flashes of silver guiding your way like a nervous lighthouse. You reach a familiar alley and duck in. It's narrow, tight, and smells like cabbage crime, but it's a shortcut. Halfway through, something scurries over your foot. You don't scream, barely, probably just a rat, hopefully. You keep walking. Suddenly, a voice. "Where you going, blanket boy?" You freeze. Two figures step out of the dark. Teenagers, maybe. Older than you want them to be. Younger than they should be. One has a knife, small, but the kind that has seen more action than you ever want to know. "Just walking," you say, careful to keep your hands visible. "Nice blanket," the other one says. "It's vintage," you quip, instantly regretting it. But they laugh. The knife twirls casually. "Got anything else worth taking?" You shake your head. "Only this button and a spoon. Oh, and a dried rose petal, but I'm emotionally attached." The taller one snorts. "You're a weird one." They step aside. "Go on then, museum boy, keep walking." You walk, slowly. Don't run. Don't tempt fate. When you emerge from the alley, your knees buckle a little, but you're upright. You survived. You consider heading home, if home counts as a stairwell. But you're not ready. Your nerves are electric. You need to walk it off. So you wander. You pass a man sweeping the steps of a wine shop with a broom that's more handle than bristle. He nods. You nod back. You pass a dog curled on a pile of discarded fabric. It watches you with one eye, the other lost to who knows what. You pass Elise. She's standing in a doorway, arms crossed, eyes scanning the street. "Thought you might have died," she says. "Almost did," you say. "Fun night?" "Educational." She steps out and hands you a roasted chestnut wrapped in paper. "For your trauma." You take it gratefully. "What's it cost me?" "A story." You sit on a stoop and tell her about the alley, the teens, the knife, the button joke. She laughs. You joke like someone who has nothing to lose. "I have a blanket." "Exactly." A shout echoes down the street. Then a crash, a window breaking. You both go still. "Time to go," she says. You follow her through a back path she knows. It's cramped but safe. You end up behind the bakery, near the warmth vent wall. "We could stay here," she says. "At least for a while." You nod. You spread the blanket between you, lean against the wall, and let the heat seep in. A cat joins you. Not Victor Hugo this time, someone scruffier. Probably named Flaubert. Historians still argue whether nighttime violence in Paris slums was the product of poverty or a symptom of deeper social decay. But those who lived it? They didn't argue. They just adapted. You and Elise sit in silence. Somewhere, a lullaby floats through the air, off-key, fragile, sweet. You don't know who's singing it. Maybe a mother. Maybe someone singing to themselves. Your chestnut is warm in your palm. Still think about Versailles? Elise asks. Sometimes, you say. But they probably don't have songs like that. She leans her head against your shoulder. Maybe we're royalty in our own way, she says. You smile. Tonight you're not royalty, but you're not alone. And in the slums of Paris, that's a kind of riches money can't touch. The sun rises slow, as if reluctant to look directly at the mess it left behind overnight. You open your eyes to the same brick wall, the same cracked sky, but somehow everything feels heavier. Your body aches in a more specific way, like you've been gently stomped on by life. Elise is still sleeping next to you, her head resting on your shoulder, her breath warm against the side of your neck. Flaubert the cat has migrated to your lap, and he is now purring like a badly tuned violin. You don't move yet. There's a rare stillness in this early hour. No shouting, no carts creaking, just the quiet sighs of a city bracing itself for one more round. Eventually, Elise stirs. She mumbles something about soup and aristocrats, stretches, then immediately complains about her back. You stand, bones popping like firecrackers. Another day to survive. You say goodbye, for now, and head into the main square. It's already buzzing with energy. A man is juggling fish for coins. A woman is selling candles she clearly made from questionable ingredients. A preacher on a crate is warning everyone about ducks. You don't ask. You head for the laundry yard. It's always hiring if your arms work and your spine bends. Today, your arms and spine are only partially functional. That qualifies. You're assigned a bucket and a rhythm. Dip, scrub, ring. Dip, scrub, ring. It's repetitive, meditative, almost. You lose track of time, letting your brain drift while your body does the work. A woman next to you talks about her neighbor who stole a loaf of bread by pretending to be a ghost. Another boasts about hiding her savings inside a broken flute. You make a mental note not to borrow flutes. Around midday, your supervisor, a man who's clearly allergic to joy, hands you a coin. One whole coin. You hold it like it's a sacred object. You survived the shift. You earned this. Your hands are raw, your back is tight, but your pocket jingles, and that's the kind of music this city respects. You consider what to do with it. A hot drink, a real piece of meat, a second-hand book with half its pages. You choose soup. You find a cart that claims to sell Bohemian stew, whatever that means. The vendor is missing 3 teeth and probably stole his ladle, but the broth is hot, the bread is mostly not moldy, and the seat is dry. Luxury. As you sip, you spot Elise weaving through the crowd, carrying a bundle of cloth. She sees you, grins, and slides onto the bench beside you. "Got you something," she says, handing over a wool cap that looks like it survived a mild battle. "Did you make this?" "No, I liberated it. From a clothesline." You put it on. It smells like smoke and something faintly floral. It's perfect. She eyes your soup. You hand her the bread without speaking. She takes it with a soft thanks. And for a few minutes, you eat like royalty, quiet, dignified, and pretending not to notice the pigeon watching you with judgment. Historians still argue whether slum dwellers had meaningful friendships, or if survival overshadowed sentiment. But in moments like this, when soup is shared and silence isn't awkward, the answer seems obvious. After the meal, you walk together through the alleys. Kids are chasing a wheel. A man in a wig plays a violin that's missing 2 strings. Someone is painting on a wall with what might be wine. You pass the bakery, the alley, the rooftop ladder, the place where the girl gave you the time-smelling cloth. Landmarks now, not just locations, but memory markers. You reach your usual sleeping spot and sit down. Elise pulls something from her pocket. "For the museum," she says. It's a coin, but it's been flattened, maybe by a cart or an angry chicken. It's warm from her hand. You add it to your collection, which now includes 1 button, 1 spoon, 3 lucky peas, 1 dried rose petal, 1 bent nail, 1 flattened coin, a worthless treasure chest or a perfectly valuable one. You both lean back, watching the sky blush with sunset. You made it. 1 entire day in the slums of 18th century Paris, not without scars, not without smell, but with something else entirely. Proof that even in the filthiest corners of history, humanity persists. Not always cleanly, not always kindly, but persistently. You close your eyes. Elise hums a tune, barely audible. Flaubert reappears, stepping on your face before curling up beside you. And the city exhales. Now the rooftops blur into shadows, the chimneys into silhouettes. The flicker of torchlight dances behind shuttered windows, and the streets, once bursting with voices and footsteps, begin to quiet. Your body feels heavy now, not from fatigue, but from the strange comfort of presence, of having made it through, of having witnessed something absurd, dirty, and oddly beautiful. The sounds fade one by one. First the clatter, then the murmurs, then even the wind seems to hush, like it's listening with you. The night wraps around your shoulders like a softer version of your tattered blanket. You picture the rooftops once more, the steam from a pot of chestnuts, the boy named Bernard playing his off-key tune. You remember the whistle of a kettle, the glint of a coin, the brush of fingers when bread was shared. And now, it's time to rest. Let the slums of Paris drift into the mist, their smells replaced by the clean quiet of your room. Let your limbs loosen, your breath grow slower, and your mind float, untethered, towards sleep. The city will wait. Its noise, its humor, its aching humanity, they'll all still be there. But you can let go now. You're warm, you're safe. You've survived the filth and found the story. Close your eyes. Breathe out. Good night.